Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Insurance Experts. I'm so excited to have on the line today Charlie Gimple, a good friend of mine from LinkedIn, actually. Charlie's an annuity expert, and I love hearing about the strategies and stories from other annuity experts. So today, Charlie's going to tell us about a client story that he recently had. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the client, first of all, Charlie?
Great. Thank you, Mark. Absolutely thrilled to be here, by the way, and congratulations on starting these. I guess I shouldn't say starting these, just kind of a new format, so congratulations. I'm glad to be a part of this. So this story that I want to tell today is, it represents a few areas where I believe there are huge opportunities for agents, advisors, reps to work with consumers, and we'll get to where those two areas are. But the client in question that we're talking about is Matt, who's a friend of a friend, and I was introduced to Matt back in it would have been late 2018, so late last year. He's a manager of a plastics manufacturer. He has a lot of employees under him. He's 64 years of age, has two adult kids. He's married. 64 years of age, wants to retire 2 years from now. And the disconnect between what he thinks he can get from his current portfolio and what statistics, what studies say that he can get from his portfolio, there is a significant disconnect. And that was really the education process that I walked through with Matt. And that's the education process, Mark, that I'd like to share with your audience today.
Okay. Now, I know you also work with agents. Can you tell us a little bit about your business? First of all, do you work with agents almost exclusively or more with personal clients like this?
I do personal production on a limited basis, mostly as a means to an end. The means is to prove it to the agents once I talk with those agents about that strategy.
Very good. So tell us a little bit about Matt and his needs and retirement plans overall.
Matt is a 64-year-old. Actually, he was a 64-year-old. I think he may be 65 today, but was a 64-year-old. He had $200,000 sitting in a 401k plan. $200,000 sitting in a 401k plan. He's retiring 2 years. Was retiring 2 years from then. Retiring about a year and a half from now. Married. He has $150,000 elsewhere. And when I talked with Matt about what his goals were in retirement, he had laid out what his assets were. I did a full-blown fact finder, and here is what his situation was. And this situation was really uncovered in three questions that I asked him. The first question I asked him is, Matt, how much do you basically guarantee that you are going to spend in retirement? So guaranteed retirement expenses, how much are you going to have once you retire, once you check out at age 66? And the answer to that question was around $45,000, guaranteed that he is probably going to spend in retirement every year. I asked him the second question. So that's the first question that everybody should ask. How much do you expect on a guaranteed basis you're going to spend in retirement? The second question was this: how much in guaranteed income do you have that is going to go towards offsetting that $45,000? And his answer was pension and Social Security. That equates to only about $34,000. So he has an $11,000 gap, right? So then the third question is why have you not looked to a guaranteed source of income to fill that $11,000 gap? After I explained that there was an $11,000 gap, and that is when he kind of threw his hands in the air and said, what is there? I have Social Security, I have pension, but what else is there? And by the way, my $150,000 is with my investment advisor that I've been with forever. And my $200,000 is in my 401k plan. What else is there to do, Charlie? How's that so far, Mark? Does that kind of set the stage for the recommendation here?
It does. So you wanted to create a personal pension to fill that gap. And what strategy were you recommending to him to do that?
So I told Matt, I said, hey, that $150,000 outside of the 401k plan, I'm not even going to talk about that. It sounds like you're very loyal to your investment advisor. But let me ask you a question here. That $200,000 that's currently in your 401k plan, which you could kind of see the uncertainty in his eyes. Well, that $200,000, what can we do with that $200,000? I said, what do you plan on that creating an income a couple years from now? And his answer was it should well take care of that $11,000 gap, right? So we went into the math. I said, okay, $200,000 2 years from now. What do you expect that to grow to over the next couple of year period of time? And he didn't know. I said, okay, let's let's be not too aggressive, not too conservative. Let's say that $200,000 grew by 5% per year. If you take that out for a couple year period of time, it's $220,000, right? And I asked him, okay, what percentage do you expect at that point in time from a stock and bond portfolio that you're going to be able to take in distributions going forward? You'd be amazed when he said anywhere from 6 to 8% in distributions from that 401k portfolio. That withdrawal rate was not 6, 7, 8%. It was 4%. Let's assume it's still 4%, even though we are in a new normal with interest rates on that bond component, a new normal with the way that the stock market has performed over the last 19-year period of time. Chopped in half twice, right? Chopped in half twice during the first 10 years of this new millennium. I said, but let's run that out here. You take $220,000 that it grows to 2 years from now, you multiply that times 4%, and the number we came up with was $8,800. Not enough to cover that $11,000 gap.
Okay.
And before we went into what my proposed solution was, he said, and besides that, what can you do with my 401k plan? This is perfect, right? He says, what can you do with my 401k plan? And that is, Mark, where I introduced him to the notion of in-service non-hardship distribution.
Okay, so this is a strategy that involves the 401k plan. Why can't he just get an annuity in the 401k plan? What's the issue with that?
That's a great question. Many 401k plans do not have annuities in them. Many 401k plans, it's kind of two different sides to the spectrum. Money market accounts, which are very much subject to inflation risk, not performing enough to keep up with inflation. The other side of the spectrum is risky stuff, right? Stocks, equities, bonds. Many people don't realize, only 28% of the public realizes that when interest rates increase, the bonds and bond mutual funds lose value. So you have two different sides to the spectrum here. There typically is nothing in 401k plans that I call longevity insurance. Longevity insurance being annuities. And that is the opportunity, one of the opportunities here, Mark.
Okay, so given the 401k plan doesn't have an annuity option, what do you recommend as the strategy? You said in-service, non-hardship withdrawal. What does that mean exactly?
Statistics say, and some people are not aware of this, most consumers are not aware of this, many advisors, I would say a majority of advisors are not aware of this, anywhere from 70 to 90%, let's just call it a majority of 401k plans, allow for you, as long as you are 59 and a half or older, even if you are still employed with that employer, you can take all or a portion of that 401k plan and move it over to an individual retirement account. An individual retirement account, which obviously could be an annuity, could be a mutual fund, or what have you. It is your individual retirement account, which opens up a world of opportunities from an investment decision standpoint. So that's an in-service non-hardship distribution.
Now, what are the trade-offs with taking money out of the 401k? What do you lose by doing that in terms of putting it into an IRA?
The 401k plan is great because you have this big menu of choices in the 401k plan. I mean, granted, I would argue that a brokerage account somewhere else, you also have those choices. That's one trade-off there, is you kind of lose, in some cases, you lose that menu of options there. Another trade-off, as I told Matt about, if he goes into an annuity, is, hey, if Matt was this astronomically aggressive consumer, well, by moving out of that stock and bond portfolio over into this longevity insurance, into this annuity, that would not be suitable. And obviously, I wouldn't have recommended it if he was hugely aggressive with that $200,000. So that can be a negative trade-off to going into an annuity. Obviously, in the end, Matt and I both established that the positive trade-off far outweighed the negative trade-off.
Okay, so you're creating this account to give them a guaranteed income to fill that gap. What type of annuity are you using to do that?
It's an index strategy with a cap. A cap on it was 6% at the time, I want to say. So they still have access to that money, albeit somewhat limited with surrender charges and stuff. The GLWB rider is an overarching longevity insurance benefit that says, hey, if your value hits zero, it doesn't matter. This umbrella is still going to guarantee you for lifetime. So what it was, Mark, is yes, an index annuity with a 6% cap that had a GLWB rider on it.
Okay, and GLWB is the guaranteed lifetime withdrawal benefit. So that means you're paying an extra charge. How much was the extra charge for that rider, for that feature?
Yeah, it was 1%. And I'm chuckling because we're full of acronyms in our business, aren't we?
Oh yeah, but it's good because this is what's going to allow you to plug that hole, to give him that guaranteed income that he lacks. He's giving up obviously the upside of the market on the 401k side, but he's gaining a more conservative posturing. To all these people that want the guaranteed income, if they live shorter than their life expectancy, they're getting less money. The people that live longer and have the longevity risk get more money, and that allows everybody to have that guaranteed lifetime effect. So why do you think why do you think annuities are kind of maligned in the media? You know, that there's a lot of negativity about fixed index annuities like this.
I think there's a lot of kind of drive-by experts, so to speak, as in I won't name any experts or anything like that, but I will say there's a lot of pooling together. Index annuities, all annuities with high cost. Well, that's like taking a variable annuity, which I love variable annuities, but yeah, it's no secret they can be 3% or 4% per year in expenses, but then lumping everything in together with them, right? So you have a lot of lumping that's going on, so to speak. And as I just alluded to argue against the logic of annuities is to argue against the logic of life insurance, because they are the inverse of each other. And nobody would ever argue against the logic of life insurance. What's the difference between life insurance and indexed annuities in particular? This is kind of my second response, Mark. Index annuities have only been around since 1995. So they are actually, 24 years old is all? A baby compared to all this other stuff that's just kind of common knowledge today. So I think there's lack of awareness because of the infancy of index annuities, but also because of some experts kind of lumping everything together that does not necessarily apply to index annuities.
All right, very good. Well, I appreciate your time, Charlie. You're really an expert in the subject, and thanks for joining us for this series, The Insurance Experts. And we'll be in touch soon, and I'm sure we'll talk about some other strategies on future editions.
Thank you much, Mark. Appreciate it.
All right, take care now.